Welcome to the Leadership Signals Atlas. We're here to map how the world really works. Today, we're digging into one of the most subtle and frankly misunderstood dynamics in any organization, the silent demotion. You know the situation. A leader keeps their title, they keep their office, maybe even their salary, but their actual power, it's already packed its bags and left the room. This one sentence, that's the key to this whole thing. It tells us that power isn't some switch that HR flips one day. No, it's more like a current of electricity that can be rerouted slowly and quietly until a leader is left completely powerless. And that's the phenomenon we're going to map out right now. So that's the big question, right? How does this happen? We're not talking about some dramatic firing or a big public failure. This is about a slow, invisible erosion of influence that happens just under the surface. Our job today is to make that invisible process, well, visible.
All right, let's start with the first and most critical piece of our map, the signal. This is the counterintuitive truth that most people get wrong because, frankly, they're looking in all the wrong places.
So the myth is that losing power is this big, loud event. A tense meeting with HR, a company-wide announcement. But the real signal? It tells a much quieter story. The truth is that real power loss is a process of social withdrawal. And organizations are absolute masters at this. Why? Because it's cleaner to demote someone's power long before you demote the person. It's quiet, and it avoids all that messy, direct conflict.
But here's the thing. This invisible process, it's not random at all. It follows a very clear, very observable pattern. So let's break down the 3 distinct signals that tell you power is being systematically taken away.
These are the 3 stages you need to watch for. It's a progression. First, a leader's real influence just decays. Then, the actual decision-making starts to happen somewhere else. And finally, the respect from their own team just vanishes. Let's look at each one of these a little closer.
Now, that word omission is absolutely crucial here. See, power doesn't usually erode because of big arguments or direct conflict. It erodes when people just stop needing to engage with the leader at all. The center of gravity for decisions just subtly shifts away from them, without any big announcement. Their input just isn't the critical piece it used to be. And that leads us perfectly into the next stage. If you think of influence as the currency of power, then you gotta think of decisions as the marketplace. And when that marketplace moves, power moves right along with it. This is where exclusion becomes the real demotion. The title is still there on paper, but the actual authority has been relocated.
And this isn't some abstract idea. You can actually see this shift happening in really concrete ways. Suddenly, that critical pre-meeting for a project happens, and you weren't invited. Or your approval on a document is suddenly replaced by a new committee sign-off. Maybe a new special projects team gets formed to handle what used to be your core job. These aren't just little administrative changes. They are loud and clear signals that power now lives where the decisions are being made, and that's not with your title anymore. And this brings us to the final signal, and honestly, it's the most devastating one. A leader can lose influence, they can lose decision-making power, but once the respect is gone, their authority is completely hollowed out. The team's loyalty, their emotional investment, the stuff that actually drives great work, that all migrates to new informal power centers. And what's left for the leader? Just procedural compliance, people doing the bare minimum.
Okay, so once you understand this pattern, you start to see it playing out everywhere, in the real world. This is what we call the game. This isn't abstract theory. This is a dynamic that shapes careers every single day.
A really common way you see this in action is something called executive bypassing. This is when a senior leader starts going directly to a manager's team members to get things done, completely cutting that manager out of the loop. It's a classic signal. It tells you that the organization sees that manager's role as a bottleneck, not as a source of value. Their formal position still exists, but their actual function has been made obsolete.
So what happens to the leaders who just don't see these signals? Well, the cost is profound. They don't just lose a job, they become what we call a hollow leader, a figurehead with absolutely no real command. And this quote just nails the final state of that leader. Their team will still do what they're told. Sure, they'll fill out the forms, they'll show up to the meetings, they'll hit the minimum targets, they will comply. But the commitment, that discretionary effort, that passion, that loyalty, oh, that's already been given to somebody else.
And this is what that looks like visually. On the organizational chart, their formal title is way up here, looking impressive. But their real, actual influence, their ability to make things happen, to inspire people, to shape outcomes, is down here, critically low. The leader is in charge, but they are no longer in control.
So where's the advantage in all this? How do you avoid this trap? Well, the edge isn't found in some clever political tactic. It's much simpler. It's found in the clarity of seeing what's actually happening around you. It's the power of pure observation.
Think about it like this. The unaware professional, they look at the formal org chart and they think that's reality. So they're always reacting, always a step behind the real flow of power. But the aware professional, they're reading the social signals we've been talking about. They see the invisible power map underneath the formal one. And because they see it clearly, they can act with strategic purpose instead of just reacting after it's already too late.
We've now mapped the signal, the pattern, and the cost. So for this final part, we're going to turn the lens around. On to you. We'll end with 3 diagnostic questions.
Really think about it. Which rooms are you not in? Which email chains, which conversations are happening right now that shape your work, your career, or your projects where your voice is completely absent? And then ask yourself this. Who used to come to you for your opinion or your guidance? A colleague? Someone on your team? Maybe even your own boss? If they've stopped coming to you, where are they going instead?
And the final, most direct question. Try to be an objective observer of your own career. Based on the signals we've mapped out today, what influence, what power, what real authority have you already lost without any formal announcement? The answer to that question, well, that reveals the true map of how your world really works.